Welcome to the Mojo Market Report. Here's your hosts, Dave Sturchio and Chris Gueci.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Mojo Market Report right here on a Football Friday. It is Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci, A5, Anthony behind the glass here at Chop Studios in beautiful downtown Matawan, New Jersey. We hope everybody's doing well out there. I know I am. A win is a win, guys. A win is a win. If you're a Cowboys fan, a win is a win in December. And the Cowboys moved to 12-4 with a win over the Titans last night. Titans played relatively okay, despite the fact that they benched their entire roster.
Yeah, they played inspired football.
They did. And
I thought it was a better game than we anticipated, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Definitely closer than I would like. They were up 10-6 at half, the Cowboys were. I was just like, oh, my God. Why are, I got a lot of colleagues within the Cowboys media, and they're all like, tonight will be the night you can kick your feet up at halftime and say, we're going to coast. And you know what? The Cowboys did play offense like they were trying to coast. and they were trying to establish the run. That wasn't working. Tony Pollard missed the game, so obviously that stunk. But Ezekiel Elliott, 19 rushes for 34 yards and a touchdown. So, he gets in the end zone, which is always great. 9 straight games now, Zeke has a touchdown, which is kind of nice.
You know what people are going to say, right? And when I say people, I know that we're both thinking of one special
Just one guy. Just one within our circle.
See what happens to the Dallas Cowboys offense when Tony Pollard is not on the field.
Malik Davis was on the field. He outrushed Zeke. He looked a little nice and explosive. My father said it. We were watching the game together, and he's like, this is what happened. This is a result of Pollard not being able to be a game-changing guy. And look, the Titans, again, they rested a lot of guys. They had a lot of guys banged up, but they are the number 1 or number 2 run defense in the league. So it's not like, they got some depth. They played it, like you said, inspired football. But overall, the Cowboys get the win. It's a big one now. Now all eyes on that Saints-Eagles game. We'll get into that later on within our rundown. So, top movers from last night, Thursday night football. Not a lot of action. Like I said, 27-13, not big on the stats. Look, you can say what you want about Dak Prescott. Throws another 2 touchdowns, but throws another 2 picks and a fumble loss. The fumble loss, bad snap, right up. Again, I don't like to make excuses for Dak, but when they're right there in front of you have to. If you woke up this morning and you take a look at the box score, you'll be like, another 2 picks for Prescott, right? One was right off the face, hands, and everything of Peyton Hendershot, and that was a pick. And then one real bad throw towards the end of the game. But Byard he's a baller, dude. That guy can actually play ball on the secondary of the Titans, so I'm not crediting that. But the first mover of the night is Dalton Schultz. We talked about Dalton Schultz a lot within the last couple of weeks, knowing that free agency's coming up. He's playing on the franchise tag. He's trying to get paid and stay in Dallas. I don't know if that happens, but last night goes 7 catches for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns. One was a walk-in. One was a great Moss type play in which when he came down with it, apparently he was gesturing to the corner that you're too small. So,
How about this? I didn't even see that play, and I was just guessing.
Yeah, well, I think he did this. I think he did too small.
Too small. That's big in the NBA.
Yeah. So anyway, Dalton Schultz has himself a night. It's a questionable thing to see what happens to the Cowboys tight end position in the offseason because obviously they're kind of loaded there. I like Schultz. I do like Hendershot. I think he'll be good. Ferguson's good, and Sean McEwen is my guy. So I can't choose between the 4, but if they have 3 of the 4 next year, I'm not mad at it. Right? Tight ends are plentiful over there.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. But I think that the offense could use an established tight end. They probably would like to keep Dalton Schultz, but I agree with you. The money is going to be a little bit too much, and they have a lot of other things that they need to address.
Yeah, we talked about Pollard not playing, but there's also a Pollard contract.
But look, we still have Dalton Schultz going forward, and he's finally healthy, it looked like. Finally, the last couple of weeks he's coming into his own a little bit.
Yeah.
But more so yesterday, he's the best game of the season. It's a good time to have your best game of the season with your contract looming. And the playoffs are approaching, so they need somebody else to step up in games because it's not going to always be able to be CeeDee, which it was yesterday, and we'll get to it in a second. But I'm in on Dalton Schultz for the next couple weeks because why wouldn't you be? The Dallas Cowboys are definitely into the playoffs now, right? We established that.
That was a couple weeks ago,
And they're going to get probably 2 games if they play Tampa. I know Tampa is the Tom Brady effect, et cetera, but Tom Brady behind that offensive line, they're going to be running for their lives against Dallas. So you could look at Dallas getting at least 3 more games this season.
You would hope.
And
if you're a Cowboys fan.
Dalton Schultz, 3 games over the last 3. Does he have 3 touchdowns?
He's got more than that, yeah. Well, he's got 2 last night, so.
So I think he has 1 in 2 weeks ago. So if he's
Whatever,
averaging,
if he's averaging a touchdown a game,
yeah,
right.
I know that doesn't necessarily ring true always, but I'm going to go in on Dalton Schultz. I think Dak is leaning on him a little bit heavier down the stretch.
Now, I said this on Monday when we were recapping last week's games that CeeDee Lamb was an absolute wide receiver 1 and should be in the conversation with Jamar Chase and guys like that within the league. Once again, last night, 11 catches on 14 targets for 100 on the dot, which, if you watched the end of the game, I don't know if you did or not. You probably didn't. But the last drive where you knew they didn't need a pass at all, Dak threw a wide receiver screen, and he got that extra yard to get the 100-yard. And I was just like, did you need that? Probably not, but it looks nice in the stat sheet.
I'm going to say this. I don't know who's exactly. I know Kellen Moore probably calling the plays.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, more than likely. That seems to be the
I've dealt
thing.
with Mike McCarthy for quite some time. He is not the type of coach that's going to call a play for a stat.
Yeah, so it's definitely Kellen Moore.
I don't buy that.
What I will say is, for only the 3rd time in Cowboys history, ready for this stat? We have 100 reception guy on the roster. 3rd time in Cowboys history.
And 2 of them are him?
No, CeeDee Lamb is 1, Jason Witten's the other, Michael Irvin's the other. We just don't have 100 catches.
So if he has, he's
got over 100 catches.
He didn't have 100 last year, CD?
No, so that's it's either a testament to the depth of the receiving core when they can spread the ball around, or we just haven't had a dominant one in a long time. CeeDee Lamb seems to be the guy, and I truly put him in the conversation with a lot of the elite receivers in this league. And if Dak Prescott can clean up some of the bad throws, again, I think Prescott's got like 14 interceptions this year, but literally, and this is a known stat. 7 interceptions are coming off of people's hands, shoulders, face masks, whatever. So you cut that in half based off. You can get some bad throws in there. Nobody's perfect. I want to ask you a question though. As a stat guy, right? We all love stats. Do you think there will ever be a time that
I already know what you're going to say.
Whoa, go ahead. If you guess this is going to be pretty impressive.
That there's a stat for picks, but for a player that drops a ball.
Damn.
And there will never be.
It's like we know each other or something. We've been working together forever. No, what I want to say is team offensive interceptions, and quarterback individual interceptions.
So you're basically what you're asking for. Not
like the Cowboys have thrown 14, but Dak has thrown 7.
Curious about is if they would maybe implement what they do in baseball on an error, and they have someone on the score sheet, and they decide who deserves the error.
Right.
No.
Okay. So all that, still no. I just look. And it's not just Dak. There's plenty of quarterbacks in the league that get murdered with the horrible, horrific stats, and the receivers that drop balls left to right.
If you watch Packer games, anytime you watch a Packer game, just all you have to do is see Aaron Rodgers' reaction after he throws a pick, and you know clearly it wasn't his fault. I mean, obviously. So
nothing in history
now
is
they
ever
have to be like, you know what? We have to wait for the score, the official score to get word from.
I don't see that being
from the
that
OC
hard.
on whose fault that was. Did he run the right route?
No, not even the route. I'm not talking about routes.
But that's the reason why, because there's really no way.
I want to
tell.
talk about contact with the hands.
Clear.
Right.
Oh, he should have caught that. I mean, he gets a drop. He does.
It's still not enough because, again, Dak's numbers are getting skewed because of this. But anyway, that's the Cowboys. We do flip it over to the Titans for a half a second because there was a top mover in Treylon Burks. 4 catches, 66 yards. This Titans offense is relatively bad when Henry's not in there to establish anything. Treylon Burks, though, up last night. Not much, not even 1%. But, again, when it's Josh Dobbs out there for the first time in his life, his space cadet parents in the stands are just weirded everybody out. No emotions whatsoever on those people. But I would say that Dobbs had himself a decent night. He's probably in line to start the season finale over Malik Willis next week, you would assume. I can't believe, again, I know we've talked about Malik Willis at length on this show about how, later round draft pick, he's not necessarily the quote project because maybe they just don't believe in the guy. I saw his stats from his 3 performances, and his best passing performance was 99 yards.
Yeah, they don't
so it's
throw.
It's just not a thing for Malik Willis to be the guy. He might wind up being a bust, even though he is a later round draft pick. But Josh Dobbs will probably get the start, and Treylon Burks is going to benefit from that. I believe Robert Woods scored a touchdown. So these guys, they will, they're going to give it their all. The old college try next week, but I don't foresee them even running close to Jacksonville.
It's insane to me how little we find in this Titans offense outside of Derrick Henry, and we're talking about them in a win-and-you're-in situation in Week 18 against the Jaguars. It's crazy because this team seems to be really bad on paper, offensively.
You know what's funny, though? Last year, as the 1 seed, we kind of said the same thing.
Yeah, of course.
Like, they look like a bad team that might get bounced quick.
And to be fair, last year at this time, they were the 1 seed, and they were without Derrick Henry going into, I guess, this week.
Right.
They were. He was out all the second half. And I'm pretty sure even A.J. Brown missed some time over that stretch as well. So they really didn't have much to offer, but they had a healthy Ryan Tannehill. And really, it was the defense that was really lighting it up for them.
They forced a lot of turnovers last year.
He's out this year. So, yeah, they dealt with some injuries just like everybody else has. But more back towards Treylon Burks, this has been a pretty decent class for rookie wide receivers. And Treylon Burks, he didn't impress me much. He didn't do much in the offseason to gain any favor amongst the
We've said it plenty on the show, and then he burns the Packers for like 80 yards.
I know. I'm if you look at his stat line for this season, he played in about, I don't know.
How about the Titans getting 2 Thursday night games?
Played in about 10 games. He had half of his cumulative stats all in 1 game against Green Bay. It might even have been 1/2, to be honest. So I'm not completely in on Treylon Burks, but I've seen enough to say, okay, if he gets his stuff together and he gets on a team with a quarterback and a willingness to throw him the football a little bit more. Although, 8 targets in a game where you probably didn't really throw that much, I can't imagine.
No, overall, I think they threw not enough. Well,
they don't throw much as a team.
Well, actually, they did throw a lot.
They did?
Dobbs threw 39 passes.
Ooh,
so that's a lot.
That is alarming.
That is alarming. Because
that is not Tennessee. That's not Mike Vrabel football.
12, actually, let's see. The leading receiver was Robert Woods with 5
probably
catches.
Got Tannehill over there how are this? Malik Willis, he might not throw 39 passes in his entire career.
That could be a thing. All right, that's week number 17's Thursday Night Football Top Movers. There is one more conversation to be had before we get into the week 17 preview. So we found out earlier this week that Tua once again gets the old pull, right? He's out. Concussion, another one. Teddy B against the Patriots. We'll get into that game in specific, but just to bring this up as an alarming thing, another concussion for Tua. What are we thinking, man? Like he's turning into like a Steve Young. Like Steve Young was battered and bruised, and his career was not long because of concussions and all that. Same thing with Aikman. Same thing with like all these old school quarterbacks that left the game early-ish. Aikman had his tenure and won his Super Bowls, and so did Young. But I'm saying like for Tua, his 3rd year in the league, and his brain's been scrambled. Like at what point do you actually take a step back and say, you know what, I might be susceptible to these things, and I want to kind of remember my kids' names once I have kids. You know what I mean? Like at what point do you stop?
I don't know. I can't get
but
into the head.
This is big because of his stock price as well.
I can't get into the head of Tua, right? I say maybe he gets shut down for this season potentially if he doesn't get over the symptoms. This one, I don't know how the severity of concussions go. I don't know. Apparently, sometimes they obviously increase in severity as time goes on.
Because you get symptoms over time.
Well, it's like you get it's swelling and it's you.
But that's the alarming part. Look at some of these guys.
Worse.
You saw the movie and all that stuff. Right? Like these guys, they suffer from this CTE and all that stuff. You just got to be careful, man.
It's a slippery slope.
He's a young kid.
Sure. Obviously, I'm not trying to get into Tua's head. I know that there's a lot of money on the line, and he's an athlete. He's been playing football. This is what he does
his whole life.
But now there's a real opportunity for him to make a ton of money doing it. And it's a shame because I think that he was probably the least, the best buy on the Mojo Market, even still going into last week, even though he didn't play well in the second half. I'm looking at it. It's like you got Jalen Waddle, you got Tyreek Hill, you got a coach that believes in you. I believe in Tua. It's just a shame right now because it does cloud the situation. So I would have to say I'm out on Tua for now because you never know. He might get some advice in the offseason. He might have Nick Saban call up and say, hey, you should probably consider shutting this down.
I, for one, as far as my portfolio, I have since sold about 80% of my Tua stock away. And like, I'm not trying to say, like, get out everything, but like you got to, when you see these things happen within your own portfolio and you're like, all right, so when is he going to light the scoreboard up again? I got multipliers on this guy. Every time something bad happens, I'm losing some serious coin. So, like, I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to pump the brakes on Tua. And again, we hope he gets better. And
it was
hope
another
he makes the right
situation where they did
decision.
not notice that he was concussed.
It's the whole staff needs to be like put in front of a jury. I don't know. This is like ridiculous at this point. How do you misdiagnose this crap over and over again? Anyway, week 17. Let's get to some previews. We had a couple games on the docket that have some serious playoff implications. Starts in Green Bay with the Green Bay Packers taking on the Minnesota Vikings. This is a very, very big game for Green Bay because if they lose, the season's over. If they continue to win, they make that push for the 7th seed. And again, if the stars align, which I think they will, all they need is Washington to lose one of their last 2 games. I foresee that happening possibly this week. We're not going to talk about Washington-Cleveland today, but I really think that going back to Carson Wentz is the detriment to this team. So the Packers need to handle business. What I like to see on this one is a big game out of Aaron Rodgers and Christian Watson. That Viking secondary is bad. And you talk about in the elements, it's cold. Oh, I know Minnesota plays in the cold, technically, with it being in Minnesota, but the city of Minnesota.
Don't disrespect the NFC North and say that the Minnesota Vikings play in the cold.
Okay.
They do not play in the cold.
So neither does Detroit.
Correct.
So only Chicago and Green Bay. Okay. But in this regard, I truly think that the secondary is just abysmal for the Vikings. They have been all year. They've been fraudulent team, number 1 for me the entire season. I understand they have a lot of wins and they've stockpiled them, and that's good for them. For seeding purposes, they're going to either wind up with a 2 or the 3. But the Packers are desperate. I like Aaron Rodgers in a desperate situation. Even at the age of 39, I still think the dude can sling it enough this week.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is playing better down the stretch than he played
He's also
early in the
healthier.
season. The entire team is playing much better down the stretch than they played all season. You know, you could make the case that they really haven't had a quality win in the last month. I think going on the road to Miami,
That's a quality win.
I would consider that a quality win. And also, it really doesn't matter. I don't know that even Minnesota at this point would be a quality win because the way their defense is playing. Minnesota, you just said it. They find their ways to win the game. And NFL record for most wins with under 1 score or something like that.
They have 10 of them.
They have 10. Every win that they have this year, I think, is 1 score or less. They have not beat up on anybody.
No, but they've also got the tar beat off them too. So that's alarming.
The defense is really bad. They're as good as their offense is. Their defense is equally as bad. You say through the air. I say potentially through the air, and I do like Watson because even if he has like 3 catches, 2 of them might go for touchdowns. If you look at how consistent he gets a touchdown, he doesn't catch the ball all that much, but when he does, it goes the distance. I really like in this game, and I said it yesterday, I like A.J. Dillon because Aaron Jones, I think, is a little banged up. Not to the point where he's going to miss the game, I don't think. But in the cold weather, they like to lean a little bit more on A.J. Dillon anyway. There's only been 4 games this year where he didn't have double-digit carries. So even if Aaron Jones plays, A.J. Dillon's going to be heavily involved. But with the cold weather, with Minnesota, as bad as they are stopping the pass, guess what? They're equally as bad stopping the run. So A.J. Dillon, big time today.
Minnesota
or
this year is giving up $120 on the ground per game, but the problem is the Green Bay Packers are giving up $144. That's the only play I would say in Minnesota territory. I would say that because of the game and the elements and everything that you would describe a Green Bay December game, they're going to try to run the football. Dalvin Cook has a chance to do good things this week. I'm not saying but because the Packers run defense is not very good.
I will say this: the Packers run defense is not very good, but they're much better against running backs than they are against scrambling quarterbacks. You look at some of the games that they've had, and I'm not making excuses because bad run defense is bad run defense. But when you look at the Eagles, Jalen Hurts carved them up. He had like 180 yards. They gave up 385 on the ground to the Eagles. That skews your numbers big time. It's like then they played the Bears. That first matchup, David Montgomery and Justin Fields ran all over them. So they've had some games where they gave 2 games combined where they gave up almost 600 rush yards.
That will skew the numbers.
That will skew the numbers.
So
but
we'll see.
We did see Raheem Mostert, rip off 15-yard run after run last week in the first half. So there is some room there for Minnesota for sure, but the pass game I think will be shut down a little bit more in the cold weather.
We shall see. Moving on to
that was
another
completely biased.
Yeah, it was 100% biased, by the way. He's like, oh man, the numbers are skewed. They're not really actually okay against the run. They're not.
They're not okay against the run, but you understand what I said.
Yes, I get it. The Patriots taking on the Miami Dolphins is our second game on our docket. Again, this is a loser go home type situation, right? I mean, obviously the Patriots need some help. The Dolphins are sitting there. I believe it's 7, so they have to have it. But Teddy Bridgewater is your starter. I think that's going to be alarming. He's going against the brat known as Mac Jones. Again, I've lost all respect for that guy. I really have. It's unfortunate because he's young. You thought he had some moxie, but it turns out the moxie was just being an absolute jerk. So I hope the Dolphins throttle this team, and I hope somebody gets a clear shot at Mac Jones, man. I really do. Not to hurt him, but to just ring his bell and say, hey, man, you can't do this to other defenders. Here, this is for everybody else. So, again, not rooting for an injury, but I'm rooting for just a little bit of a wake-up call for Mac Jones. In this game in particular, I want to say the plays for me would once again be a Mostert. The run offense has to be heavily relied on, being that Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, yes, he's a serviceable backup. He's been the backup for everybody pretty much throughout the course of his career outside of, the couple years he started. But I would say that this is a Mostert game. If you're flipping the side, you would assume Stevenson's got to bounce back a little bit. Like he's been having a little bit of a down month. Those are my plays for this game as far as people you want to invest in on the immediate. But overall, I'm not in on Teddy to have some resurgence game. I'm certainly not in on Mac Jones. The passing games get out of here. That might hurt people who are invested in a Waddle or a Tyreek Hill, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, if I'm going to play,
he's not Tua.
I feel like this is a short fest for me.
Yeah.
Miami is, I believe, 0-9 in their last 9 games where the temperature dips below freezing.
Yikes.
They had a decent showing against Buffalo in a game that they were fairly desperate in. And I know that they're very desperate in this game as well, but they're without their starting quarterback. And I know Tua kind of held things. He held his own, or Bridgewater kind of held his own while Tua's been out. But they haven't won without Tua. I don't expect them to start winning now without Tua and in freezing cold weather game. I just don't see it. I know there's nothing else to really see with the New England Patriots offense either, so I'm not going anywhere there. I could easily see this game just being one of those boring Bill Belichick games where he decides, hey, we're going to run the ball 55 times.
Run the ball as much as
and we're going to be okay with 3rd and 1 and running it again. And then if we don't get it, we punt it and we play defense. And that's how this game is going to go. It's freezing. It's New England. It's Miami. I'm not getting in on any Dolphins players in that temperature.
Well, we saw what they did against Buffalo.
I have no issue being wrong, and I will short Tua. I do this again.
Teddy.
I will start short Teddy in this game.
Boom. Done.
Boom.
Say that three times fast.
Kind of.
Big game in the NFC South. The Bucs have a chance to wrap it up and finally get that 4th seed and try to get back to 500 football as they take on the Carolina Panthers, who are coming off a absolute run fest against the Lions, where it was like rushed for like 350 plus as a team. So you look at that as the one thing that you were like, can they keep this up? Is it a Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman type day against the Bucs? The Bucs offense has been abysmal. I'm sorry, it's not no secret. It's not like it's breaking news. Tom Brady and that offense just can't get going until the last 3 minutes of a game when they have to have it. This game in particular, the Panthers have been playing better football. They're put themselves in a position here to be the NFC South champions if they get a win here. And of course, whatever happens in Week 18, that's another story. But what I will say is this. Time of possession, Sam Darnold not making mistakes. I really do like the Panthers in this game. We're obviously not picking the game, but I really do like their rushing attack against the Tampa Bay defense. I know the defense has been stout in spots, but overall, the Panthers have been playing very, very good football. You can always have one of those games where Tom Brady turns back the clocks and he's like, hey, I'm still here. Here's my big game of the day or the year. But I don't see it this week. I'm all in on the Panthers running back situation this week.
See, there's part of me that wants to sit here and say, look, this could be Tom. I don't know what their schedule lines up in Week 18, but it might be his final home game of his entire career. We don't know. If they lose and then they'll probably get a home playoff game, which is embarrassing.
They will, yeah, if they win.
But I'm still kind of waiting for this Tampa Bay offense to show what they're capable of doing. They have weapons, right? So that's the curious part to me. I think the main issue with Tampa this season, honestly, has been Tom Brady.
It is his regular season finale home game with Tampa Bay.
So I think the real reason that the Bucs are struggling this year has been a lot to do with Tom Brady and that offensive line. The skill players have been good. I mean, Mike Evans maybe lost a step, you could make the case. But Fournette and Rachaad White, I feel like those guys have been a nice 1-2 punch, all things considered. They just don't have the offensive line. There's no room to run.
They lost another one last week, right? Left tackle went out?
They did, but I feel like I read news this week that they potentially are activating some guys off to or designating them to return. Mm-hmm. Jensen, the center. So they could be getting some guys back. I just don't know if they're going to be ready to go in this one.
Now's the time.
They definitely need them for the playoffs, but it might not come early enough because if Carolina wins this game, then it puts the pressure on Tampa. I agree it's going to be a good football game. I'm not leaning all the way towards Carolina yet because it's January and it's Tom Brady.
But if you look at both teams, I think they're doing this. Even if Tampa Bay's winning games, I think they're doing their complete opposite direction.
So Tampa Bay going this way and Carolina going this way, but typically in the NFL, sometimes that continues.
Head-on collision coming up this Sunday.
And right now it could be that Carolina peaked. You know,
this is true. That could very well be it.
Look, this is still the Carolina Panthers. I understand they've been playing better football, but at the end of it all, it's still the Carolina Panthers.
Fired their head coach, traded away McCaffrey, selling mode all day, and they're here. So, yes.
And it's still Sam Darnold, right? So it's still Sam Darnold on the road going into Tampa Bay, a Tom Brady-led team at home. Tom Brady career splits at home are very good. This season, he's just been bad altogether.
Yeah.
I still like Tampa in this game to secure things and just give them that week of, all right, let me just...
We got the 4 seed. Let's all just get our bearings right. All right, moving on. 2 more games to talk about.
Who am I in on? Chris Godwin.
Okay, interesting little sneaky play there. Another big game in regards to the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Baltimore Ravens have to win. I mean, they're about to lose the AFC North to the Bengals, who again, when the Bengals
are in first. Right?
Yes, but I'm saying like this will probably lock it as the division champions if they lose this game to Pittsburgh. Which is crazy because when we're talking about Cincinnati in the beginning of the year, we're all like, oh, look at this Super Bowl hangover. Cincinnati has a chance. Nope, this is not a lie. They can get the 1 seed. They can get the 1 seed, right? So they have themselves.
They got Cincinnati, a tough one this week.
A huge tough game on Monday night, which is going to be probably the best Monday Night Football game of the year. And just so happens, I think it's the last because I don't think anybody plays on Monday on Week 18. But as far as this game is concerned, you know, this could be the Ravens secondary has been hard to watch this year. Okay, I have not liked what I've seen out of that. And Kenny Pickett, while I made a lot of money on the Mojo Market by getting in on him before he was announced a quarterback, and then once he came in, I still made a little bit of money because he had some decent performances. I've since got rid of a lot of my stock on Kenny Pickett, but this week I might get back in a little bit. I think that this kid, again, we make jokes on our other show about how, the Steelers don't want to have a losing season for Mike Tomlin. And that, like, last week, the Franco Harris stuff. And last year, when they had a Monday Night Football game against the Steelers, I have these gut feelings that they're going to keep playing hard, right? I see the same thing happening here. I see the Pittsburgh Steelers taking care of business. I'm not sure about Lamar right now.
He's missed another practice. I think 11
That's
straight.
alarming, man. It's like, while the Ravens are probably, if not, clinched the playoff spot, right? I don't foresee them giving it their all here. I like the Steelers. I like Kenny Pickett, and I like George Pickens to kind of continue a very good rookie season. Now, look, when we started this season, Pickens and Pickett were both listed very high on Offensive Rookie of the Year odds. They haven't lived up to that, but Pickens is that dude. I like him a lot.
Pickens is that dude. I would say he's the only guy I feel super comfortable investing in right now. You could make the case for a Kenny Pickett because there's a ton of room to grow, and it looks to me like he won the hearts of the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base years ago before he even got drafted by Pittsburgh because he's the quarterback at Pitt. So it makes sense that he's going to stick around for a little bit. You could maybe make the case to invest in Pickett, but Pickens is my guy in Pittsburgh. Now, going over to Baltimore, we're not sure about Lamar, but that offense, you say the secondary started the season like bottom of the barrel. They've managed to improve a little bit down the stretch. I mean, I guess you could correlate that to the cold weather and things just kind of lining up that way in the NFL, but I think Lamar sits in this game as well because I don't know. I mean, they could still win this game at home against Pittsburgh because it's probably going to be one of those smash mouth AFC North wild, crazy matchups.
This one got flexed to Sunday night.
Someone gets ejected.
So,
but the Ravens' offense is
gets ejected.
The Ravens' offense is really bad. I think you might be able to see a little splash out of J.K. Dobbins, but I can't confidently tell you anything about Mark Andrews because I've been invested in Mark Andrews and I lost a little bit. So I think it's time maybe we could maybe readjust our expectations around the Mark Andrews situation.
Especially with Lamar out.
He's had some good seasons, and he was on an upward trajectory, but he was drafted this year in fantasy leagues to maybe be the new Travis Kelce. I even said that on this show at some point. To me, it's just not living up to it. Maybe he's dealing with some type of injury. Maybe the quarterback situation is way worse than we thought.
I think.
Yeah, but the quarterback thing has been the same for the last 4 years.
Right, exactly.
And he's been but he has had really good seasons.
He's being exposed here. Lamar's being exposed.
No, Lamar's not playing. He hasn't played.
When he does play, he ain't that good anymore. Okay, I don't want to hear this crap. And he's about to get the biggest guaranteed contract of all time. Which
I look over at the Ravens' offense, and I'm like, wow, the Ravens' offense is really bad, really bad.
Yeah.
And their defense has been playing a little bit worse. And then I look over at their win total, and I'm like, somehow they still have 9 wins. And then the reason why
Minnesota.
is largely Lamar.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know. One more game. It's a big one within the NFC East conversation because if the Philadelphia Eagles take care of business against New Orleans, the Eagles will win the NFC East and more than likely clinch the number 1 seed as well. I believe it's a foregone conclusion. 1 win gets them everything. Jalen Hurts, back at practice, limited. Probably not going to go. Let's be honest here, okay? They're not going to trot out a somewhat injured Jalen. You think he's going to play?
I think if he's healthy, he's going to play.
No way. No way. If they want any shot at making any kind of run, you're not going to. I watched the doctor's video yesterday. Okay. Doctor over at Mojo said it's right. He takes 1 shot and it's just like, yikes. You know what I mean? You can't wear the flapjack or whatever on your shoulder pad. It's going to affect everything.
I've had a shoulder injury before and it is terrible, but we don't know the severity of it. If it's just a pain tolerance
it's a sprain. It's an AC or something joint sprain. You can't, listen,
but
you're the quarterback. You can't throw.
A sprain is very...
There's degrees of that stuff. Yes,
so
there's levels to this
We
stuff.
don't know. And the Eagles are going to be very quiet about it.
Of course, they're holding it close to the
vest. He may
vest.
have been able to play last week if they absolutely needed it,
I don't think so.
all things considered. You don't think if that was a playoff game, they might have shot him up?
I think if they had a chance to lock up the NFC East with 1 game and just beat the Cowboys, he would have played. But he's hurt. I think they're really holding this one close. Now, in the same breath, are the Saints able to get in there and do anything? I mean, the Saints have been a very quiet, like middle of the pack team to lower end.
Yeah, they're in the top 5, and we'll mention this as well. If the Eagles beat the Saints, it improves their draft position.
Yeah, they're helping their own cause if they beat the Saints. That's why you would think if he was healthy, he'd play because they're going to try to win this game at all costs. But Gardner Minshew played all right.
If he's healthy, he's playing.
He ain't playing. He's not healthy. He's not healthy. So I don't think Jalen Hurts plays. And I think I'm praying to God that the Saints win this game. But am I? Sorta. There's like little part of me says. The Cowboys got banged up last night. They might have lost their center for the next 2 or 3 weeks with a high ankle. A lot of guys got banged up. Obviously, Pollard's banged up. So as a Cowboys guy, I'm like, if the Eagles just take care of business, we don't got to worry about next week, which is bad for you. But at the same time, I'm just like, dude, just get healthy, man. Last year we decided to play all the starters in the last game of the finale, and we kicked the crap out of the Eagles and got punked by the 49ers. So I don't want to do it. But in this game, I will say the guy to give some love to, I guess, this week would be Miles Sanders. He's had himself a phenomenal year all year round. I think he's the play this week. If you want to flip it over to the Saints, which, again, they haven't been very interesting to watch, but somebody to keep your eye on for the rest of his career is Chris Olave. I think he's having a great rookie campaign, and I think that guy's going to be the one that if the Eagles lost a corner last week, I believe. I don't know if he's out for this game, but like what I will say is they're also banged up in the secondary. Expect the Red Rifle to throw it at least 54 times. So that's my prediction for that game.
There is a very, very good chance that no matter who plays in this game at the quarterback position, that the Eagles put up 30 points in the first half. Right? Okay. You agree with that. The Eagles have been a really good team in the first half this season, and then they've kind of took their foot off the gas in the second half and let some teams cover on the back door.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Hurts may go in this one. I really do. I think there's no guarantee that he's going to sit out. I would say if you don't have an investment in Jalen Hurts right now, use this opportunity while he might be out to get in on him, because if he plays in this game, he's going to light it up. And if he doesn't play in this game, it's still fine because there's really no expectation for him to.
It's still fine. He gets to be one and done in the playoffs.
But even still, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles with those
very
weapons.
True. That is a true fact.
Very good core of players, and I have a feeling that they're going to improve that offense with the running back position this year.
How do you improve off of Miles Sanders? I mean, he's had a hell of a year.
Well, if they draft a running back with the 4th pick, which I think is a real possibility
if they do that, then you can all call them the Dallas Cowboys.
Well,
I'll never hear that crap again.
I will, but for next season, that won't work out down the line.
Sanders has 1,175 yards this year.
But he's
not a bad year.
But do you pay Miles Sanders?
Or do you draft a rookie?
That could be better and probably is better?
I don't know. I can foresee it.
I don't draft a rookie that high at that position.
It's very hard to part with that guy. Well, we'll see. Keep your eye on his Mojo stock because if he gets dipped, so will his stock.
Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, these are guys that I've been in on. Devontae Smith is coming on of late right now. Big time, right? The last couple of weeks, if you were a fantasy football Devontae Smith owner, you were in the championship. I can
more than likely
guarantee you that.
Yeah, more than likely. All right, that'll do it for our Week 17 preview. We have a lot of games to watch, a lot of games to dive into. Please be sure to follow us on social media over on the Twitter, the Instagram, and, of course, the TikTok. You can follow us at Mojo, M-O-J-O. Very easy to find us. Join the Discord every day. Conversation to be had there. Who you're going long on, who you're shorting. Guys, show your portfolios. Everybody's bragging over there that everybody's making money, and that's the name of the game. So if you watch this show on the regular, you should be up. I don't foresee us making. I don't think we made a bad decision on this show to lose anybody a significant amount of money. I think we've done all right.
I've definitely made some bad plays.
That was prime time. That's prime time, Chris. We're not
I've
talking
made
about
some
prime time,
bad
Chris.
plays, but I think in the overall, I'm definitely in the good. I'm in the green with my advice.
Yes.
My market is definitely good. My portfolio.
My portfolio is strong to quite strong. Name that movie. You can't. There's no shot. Anyway, this is Meet the Parents. That'll do it. So be sure to gamble and invest responsibly over the weekend with Mojo. For Dave Sturchio, you got to download the app, by the way. Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci, A5 behind the glass. This has been another episode of the Mojo Market Report. Enjoy the football. I'm going to have to do it. All right, I'm going to have to do it. I'm a dad, and this is how I got to do it on the show.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll see you next year. Oh, God, I can't believe I did that. Ah.